Priyai Hai Keshavasya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Deve Sachavachai Namo Namaha Vrindai Hai Tulsidevyai Priyai Hai Keshavasya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Deve Sachavachai Namo Namaha Jai Tulsi Maharani. Okay. Alrighty, time for class. Alright. It's interesting, most people will never learn the principles of leverage. It's like, I guess it's ingrained in your culture, you don't learn leverage. You extend this all the way to the end, and then you expect it to be stable.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Then you have to tighten this up, and then you strip the threads here.
Thank you. Yes,
A little scientific knowledge.
It's not physics.
Hey, it's not on. I turn it on. Hey Krishna, hey Krishna. Turn it on. Hey Krishna. Something's coming. Did you plug it into the wall?
Yes.
Light is on.
Hey Krishna.
Switch is on. Oh, there.
Something's coming.
Just very low.
It's very low. All right, let's go.
We'll bring another one with it in the meantime.
Okay. Jaya Radha Madhuma Kunya Vihabhuti Jaya Radha Madhuma Kunya Vihabhuti Gopinana Malava Kirivaranavati
Gopinana Malava
Gopinana Malava Kirivaranavati
Gopinana Malava
Yasunanana Braja Janaranjana Yasunanana Braja Janaran Jana Unate Ravana Charute Yamuna Tera Vanacharute Yamuna Tera Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Vihabhuti Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Vihabhuti Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravidagacharya All Sutera Sutashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chanana the Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shaima Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Machuranam Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Swati Glasadevi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharni Nivashesha Shanyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarane. So we are reading from the next verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's 3rd canto, 25th chapter, text 21, for those of you who have devices, which is everyone nowadays. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Okay. Titikshava Garunika Surida Sarva Dehinam Ajata Shatrava Shanta Sadava Sadhu Bhushana Titikshava Karunika Surida Sarvadehina Ajata Shatravakshanta Sadava Sadhabhushana Tikshava Karunika Surida Sarvadehina Ajata Shatravakshanta Sadava Sadhabhushana Tikshava Karunika Surida Sarvadehina Ajata Shatravakshanta Sadava Sadhabhushana. Okay.
Titikshvaha Karunika Surita Sarvadehina Jata Shatrava Shanta Sadhava Sadhu Bhushana
Titikshava Karunika Suhrida Sarvadehina Jata Shatrava Shantaha Sadhava Sadhu Bhushanaha
Titikshava Karunika Surida Sarvadehina Jata Ajatashatrava Shanta Sadhava Sadhu Bhushana
Ladies.
Titikshava Karunika Suhruda Sarvadehina Ajata Satrava Shanta Sadhava Sadhu Bhushana Titikshava Karunika Suhruda Sarvadehina Ajata Satrava Shanta Sadhava Sadhu Bhushana.
All right. Word by word synonyms. Tadikshava. Tolerant. Karunika. Merciful. Surya. Friendly. Sarvadehina. To all living entities. Ajata Shatrava. Inimical to none. Shanta. Peaceful. Sadhava. Abiding by scriptures. Sadhu Bhushana. Adorned with sublime characteristics. Translation. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. So we'll go on to the purport. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A sadhu, as described above, is a devotee of the Lord. His concern, therefore, is to enlighten people in devotional service to the Lord. That is his mercy. He knows that without devotional service to the Lord, human life is spoiled. A devotee travels all over the country from door to door preaching, be Krishna conscious, be a devotee of Lord Krishna. Don't spoil your life in simply fulfilling your animal propensities. Human life is meant for self-realization or Krishna consciousness. These are the preachings of a sadhu. He is not satisfied with his own liberation. He always thinks about others. He is the most compassionate personality towards all the fallen souls. One of his qualifications, therefore, is karunika, great mercy to the fallen souls. While engaged in preaching work, he has to meet with so many opposing elements, and therefore the sadhu or devotee of the Lord has to be very tolerant. Someone may ill-treat him because the conditioned souls are not prepared to receive the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. They do not like it. That is their disease. The sadhu has the thankless task of impressing upon them the importance of devotional service. Sometimes devotees are personally attacked with violence. Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. Haridas Thakur was caned in 22 marketplaces. And Lord Chaitanya's principal assistant, Nityananda, was violently attacked by Jadaya Madai. But still they were tolerant because their mission was to deliver the fallen souls. One of the qualifications of a sadhu is that he is very tolerant and is merciful to all fallen souls. He is merciful because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. He is not only a well-wisher of human society, but a well-wisher of animal society as well. It is said here, Sarva Dehinam, which indicates all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Not only does the human being have a material body, but other living entities such as cats and dogs also have material bodies. The devotee of the Lord is merciful to everyone, the cats, dogs, trees, etc. He treats all living entities in such a way that they can ultimately get salvation from this material entanglement. Shivananda Sen, one of the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, gave liberation to a dog by treating the dog transcendentally. There are many instances where a dog got salvation by association with a sadhu, because the sadhu engages in the highest philanthropic activities for the benediction of all living entities. Yet although a sadhu is not inimical towards anyone, the world is so ungrateful that even a sadhu has many enemies. What is the difference between an enemy and a friend? It is a difference in behavior. The sadhu behaves with all conditioned souls for their ultimate benefit, ultimate relief from material entanglement. Therefore, no one can be more friendly than a sadhu in relieving the conditioned soul. A sadhu is calm, and he quietly and peacefully follows the principles of Scripture. A sadhu means one who follows the principles of Scripture and at the same time is a devotee of the Lord. One who actually follows the principles of Scripture must be a devotee of God, because all the Shastras instruct us to obey the orders of the personality of Godhead. Sadhu, therefore, means a follower of the scriptural injunctions and a devotee of the Lord. All these characteristics are prominent in a devotee. A devotee develops all good qualities of the demigods, whereas a non-devotee, even though academically qualified, has no actual good qualifications or good characteristics according to this standard of transcendental realization. Important verse. Tatikshava konunika surada sarvadehinam ajata satrava shanta sarva sarvushnam. So, Om Gana Timadanda Shah Gana Shana Shlakya Chakshur Namidikam Yena Tasmai Shigurvena Maha. So the reason Lord Kapila, for those of you who were not with us yesterday, but the reason Lord Kapila Dev is describing the symptoms of a sadhu is that in the previous verse he has instructed his mother Devahuti to take association of the sadhu, and by the association and attachment to a sadhu, then one gives up attachments to this mature world, all good qualities develop, one gets bhakti. That's interesting. We had that question yesterday about the Garuda Purana. Everybody remembers that question? And the Garuda Purana, well, in the edition of the Garuda Purana the people accept, or the Shinga Purana, in the Shinga Purana, they say that because Prahlad Maharaj, here's the whole story, and don't repeat the story because it's not bona fide. Anyway, so they said because Prahlad Maharaj in his previous birth had a fight with his girlfriend. Here's the whole story. Everybody knows when you have a fight with your wife or girlfriend, you get pretty upset. That he just stayed awake all night and fasted all night on the Srimad Chaturdasi. Therefore, he became Prahlad Maharaj. Hare Krishna. No way, Jose. Because it actually, this is called hermeneutics. When you analyze something, analyze scripture, because one doesn't get devotional service just by, or pure devotional service, or bhakti just by a gyata sukriti. One to become free of sins, yes, but really you don't get pure devotional service. There's only one way of getting bhakti is from Krishna's devotee. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about this. He says that Krishna does not give bhakti, but bhakti is independent, and bhakti comes from devotees. And we find in the songs of the Acharyas, Krishna say, Tamara Krishna Dite Par, Krishna belongs to you, referring to another devotee. I'm simply running behind you shouting, Krishna, Krishna. So, that's a really important point. So, bhakti comes from attachment and association with a sadhu. Just like we see so many people in different organizations who may chant Krishna's names, may have deities, in many Hindu temples, for example, they have deities of Radha and Krishna. Of course, I don't know if I'd call them deities. There might be statues, because Krishna may not be there, so I'm not going to offend anybody. And of course, they have deities of Ganesh, Shiva, Mahatma Gandhi, Mahavir. Who else do they have?
Sachin Tendulkar.
What?
Sachin Tendulkar.
Maybe. So, I mean, if you go to Jaipur, anyone here has been to Jaipur? Yeah. They have a whole street with Didi-wallas. And you can buy Didis of anyone. Your grandfather, any politician. Seriously. They hold shelves of Didis there. And so they'll make a Didi of anyone you want. So why aren't they developing bhakti? And why are we, hopefully, developing bhakti? Because we have the association of Prabhupada and Prabhupada's sincere followers. And that's why, because people had read the Bhagavad Gita before in the West. I read the Bhagavad Gita before, and I didn't have 1 ounce of bhakti just by reading Bhagavad Gita. I heard Krishna's name before, and I had no attraction for chanting Krishna's name until I heard it on the radio, the famous story, when Prabhupada was chanting, well, it was a recording, it was the Happening album, and I heard on the radio, then I got Krishna consciousness or bhakti or whatever, the Bhakti Lata Bij. Brahmanda Brahmate Konda Bhagwan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai. Bhakti Lata Bij. The living entities wandering throughout all the universes. And by the mercy of Krishna, he comes in touch with Guru, and he gets this seed of the creeper of devotion. That's what happens, just like Krishna Leela told the story the other day, that she was on a morning walk with me at Dowji's place, right?
Yes.
And Dowji said, why don't you go on a walk with him and chant? Dowji was also there, because I don't go walks with ladies alone, so just to clarify it. So he said, why don't you go on a walk and chant japa? Because she didn't know how to chant japa.
I just put my hand in there.
She put her hand in. She put the hand in the bead bag, and was just moving it around, just looking like she was doing something. And then she just heard the sound vibration from Dowji. Krishna, Krishna, okay, Krishna, Krishna. And after that, everything changed in her life. She became disinterested in everything and gave up her business. No, she didn't have business. Became a preacher and started making all these devotees. Oh my God. Just from hearing and associating with devotees. It's really important. Mahat Seva Mahorvi Muktes, by associating with devotees, one gets that Krishna consciousness. So that's really how Prahlad Maharaj became Prahlad Maharaj, or Dhruva Maharaj became a great devotee. It's not that just because he was frustrated and looking for Vishnu in the forest. It's because he came in contact with Narada Muni and got the mantra and served Narada Muni by strictly following Narada Muni's instructions. That's his secret of success. And Prabhupada the same, by following his spiritual master's instructions, even though Prabhupada isn't interested in a devotee. But that's his example. So therefore, that instruction by Lord Kapila in the previous chapter about getting attached to the sadhus is extremely important. But after giving that instruction, Lord Kapila Dev wants to be very clear what is a sadhu. Because you see so many sadhus, especially in India, with big beards and things like that. I have nothing against beards. I used to have one too, before the movement. Actually, it's interesting, like Prabhupada didn't like beards. Nowadays, of course, if you want to be a famous kirtan singer, you have to have a beard. Except for the ladies. They don't have beards. Isn't it true? It's like a whole scene now. Kirtan scene, beards. All sorts of things like that. But that wasn't Prabhupada's. Prabhupada's mood was, and actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood too. There was that story of Sanatana Goswami who had escaped from prison. And he went over the mountains and everything like that. And he had a beard. He looked like a Muslim mendicant. Even he looked so much like a Muslim mendicant that when he knocked on the door, Chandrasekhar is where Lord Chaitanya was staying. Lord Chaitanya sent Chandrasekhar to the door and said, there's a devotee at your door. Chandrasekhar went to the door and said, no, there's only a Muslim mendicant at the door. And then when Prabhupada saw him, not Prabhupada, sorry, Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him, he said, make yourself clean. And of course he had to give up his shawl and everything like that too. So therefore, that's our system. Clean shaven at least. People can have a little handsome hair on their head if they want. So, but not like that. So anyway, so one has to know what are the symptoms of a sadhu. And the interesting thing is, okay, before I get into the symptoms, the interesting thing is these symptoms mentioned here are guna symptoms, which means they're secondary symptoms. They're symptoms, and they're actually important symptoms, but they're not primary symptoms. There's mukhya and gona, which are two different words. Mukhya means primary, gona means secondary, because they come from the primary aspect of bhakti. And the primary aspect of bhakti is devotion and faith. Just like the verse that Prabhupada makes indirect reference to here in the purport. Yashasti bhakti bhagavacha kinchana savarganas tatra samasate sura haravaktasha kato mahat guna manoritena sati davato bihi. Where it says that one who has unflinching faith in Guru and Vedic literatures, everything is revealed to him. And all good qualities come. Yashasti bhakti bhagavacha kinchana savarganas tatra samasate sura. All the demigod qualities or the godly qualities get manifest. So in other words, the primary reason that one will manifest these saintly qualities as described here is that one has devotion for Krishna. Like sometimes you may see someone imitating these primary qualities. They appear to be very peaceful and kind. Om Shanti Shanti. But they don't have the essential quality or the mukhya quality, the primary quality of devotion to Krishna. Because that verse states that if one doesn't have devotion to Krishna, those so-called good qualities that someone may be manifesting are not actually good qualities. And that's interesting. Because sometimes we go out and we meet people who are rakshasas, unfortunately, because we ask them not to eat us. Rakshasa means mad eater. Actually, raksha means to protect, which is interesting. They were originally meant to protect, but they don't protect so much anymore. So we meet someone who is not following any of the regulated principles. I'm sure you have this experience. They get intoxicated, they have illicit sex, they gamble, and eat meat. And they're very kind to us and compassionate, right? So one may think, oh, but they have all these saintly qualities. These are good qualities. However, these qualities, or the qualities that they are manifesting, are not really considered good qualities. Why is that? I mean, the person is kind to me. He's really kind. I mean, the police didn't give me a ticket. He's, Karunika. Tikshiva, he's Tommy. Surya Sarvadayinam, Or he's a fireman, or he's a fire brigade. And he saves people from burning buildings, it's like a great hero. So why am I saying that or Bhagavatam says that they don't have any good qualities? It's a mystery. I'll explain why. The reason is that whatever qualities that we exhibit, if we are not engaged in spiritual life, these qualities are coming from the modes of nature. Karnam guna sangasya sarasad janmajonishu, as Bhagavad Gita says. that guna sangha, we associate with certain modes of nature. And then we become a certain way. But unfortunately, the modes of nature in their influence are not stable. Bhagavad Gita also describes that sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating passion and ignorance. Sometimes passion becomes prominent, defeating the other two, and I think you understand ignorance would become prominent. So it's like up and down, up and down, up and down. Just like you see, if anyone has done any counseling, you see sometimes there's an abuse situation, and it goes in cycles. Because some people's cycles are longer, like a 20-year cycle. Some people's cycles are several days cycles. So if one is engaged in devotional service and connected with Krishna, then his qualities are coming from the Shuddha Sattva. It's interesting. You know the three modes of nature? Goodness, passion, ignorance. Sattva, Raja, Tama. But there's also another one called Shuddha Sattva, which is not a material mode of nature. That's a transcendental nature. Because in this world, Sattva, or goodness, has always some mixture and is always conflicted with the other modes of nature. And it's not stable. It's really not stable. Just like you see, any of our heroes, what are they, whatever types of heroes you have, your Bollywood actors. I don't know if they're heroes. But anyway, so any of your heroes, there's an expression, they have something like clay feet. I don't know if you ever heard that expression before. It means there's some fault that you don't know. And you find out later about them that they have this particular fault. Anyway, so because they're not in the Shuddha Sattva, they're in the Sattva, not Bollywood stars. Yeah. Sorry I gave that example. I mean, let's say, I don't want to talk about Mahatma Gandhi because someone will get offended. So, any like great personality who, let's say, okay, let's go to America because I'm not going to offend anyone here. George Washington, who was the father of America, and they named the capital after him. And so, when you really look into his life, first it appears, what a great soul, he sacrificed everything, defeated the stupid British. Sorry, no one here is British, I hope. And you think, wow, God bless America, you probably have your heroes here too. All right, so George White, you look into his life, and he had all these slaves, and then he had a door, hidden door in his bedroom where he could go down and have a relationship with different slave ladies. And so you think, oh my God, he was my hero before. Or here in Australia, I don't know who your founding fathers were. You find out that they used to shoot the Aborigines or something like that. They were, they're the cruelest people imaginable. So they have some bad qualities. So, but it's not based on devotion. It's not based on Shuddha Sattva. It's based on the Sattva, then Raja comes, then Tama comes, and then, obviously George Washington, he was subjected to Tama, ignorance, quite a bit. But you see the public face of someone, or a sadhu. I'm thinking of one sadhu, not sadhu, it's not a real sadhu, right now in India, very popular sadhu. And don't ask me his name, I'm not going to get into it. He has giant temples he built, even in Vrindavan. And then, there's some child abuse issues. Yeah, and no names, please. And so, but people still go there, they're just like the big temple of marble and, Radhe, like that. So one has to apply their intelligence and look at for the primary qualities, not just not just the external manifestations. Although the external manifestations are important because they lead one in the right direction. And the external manifestation, or the guna qualities which are described here are important for us to look for. But these qualities have to be manifest 24/7, not 12/5. Or, what, you have 40-hour work weeks here?
Yeah, 37.
35.
37 and a half.
40 hours.
Some people are lucky.
Yeah, because you're all lazy. Anyway, so what's interesting, apart from that, just an interesting subject matter, that the Taiwanese, they want to establish chip factories in different places around the world. And they're having a lot of trouble in Australia and in America because they're used to a 90-hour work week, 80 or 90-hour work week. And we're just like, we got our long vacations and we do not have a work culture. Neither in India is there a work culture. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about these different qualities, Tikshiva Karunika, and how we can develop them in a devotional way. I mean, there's ways you can try to develop them in a non-devotional way, but they won't remain stable. Let's take the Tikshiva. It's interesting also that before you can get to mercifulness, you have to become tolerant. Because without being tolerant, you can't be merciful. Because when you're, as pointed out by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, when you're trying to help people, people don't appreciate at least 50% of the time, or people criticize you, or people become your enemies sometimes. So the opposite of tolerance, of course, is intolerance, that one is thinking about themselves and their own happiness and own pleasure and becomes angry with others, because when you don't tolerate, then you become angry. A symptom of not tolerating is anger. So, getting back to the point, so how do you develop tolerance in a Krishna conscious way? And my realization is that when you're doing things out of love, because we're talking about bhakti yoga here, not simply like this Amrita Muni, who was attempting to become a Brahma Rishi. You know the story? And he wasn't engaged in bhakti yoga. He was engaged in a type of karma yoga, or, a karma in the sense of wanting something material. And so he had a lot of problems with tolerance, because tolerance means not only tolerating when people criticize you or tolerating pain, but you also have to tolerate the attractive features of this world. Things come and attract you. You have to just tolerate. Tamstatiksha bharata, matrasparshas to kontia, both things. Sitoshna sukha dukkha, right? Adama payana nitash tamstatiksha bharata. So you have to tolerate happiness and distress, pleasure and pain, both things. So it's interesting how you have to tolerate both things rather than just like pain. So how does one come to the platform of tolerating these things? Well, bhakti is the only thing. Wait, if you have your objective to give pleasure to someone who you love, then you can tolerate. And you can be faithful. Part of toleration is being faithful. And that's why associating with sadhus and associating with Krishna and taking care of the deities, doing deity worship and the 9 Nava Bhakti processes invoke a quality, or instill a quality of love in one's heart. And when one has that quality, then one will be doing everything they do to please the person or persons whom you love. So it's not that it's pleasant when you have to tolerate something, at least unpleasant things, but you do it because this pleases Krishna. And Krishna is there 24/7 too. He's everywhere. Sarvatra. And he's aware of everything you're doing. So every activity what is that? Pranam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmatena Gantavya Brahma Karma Samadhanam. Every activity is Brahma Karma, is connection with Brahma, not Lord Brahma, but with Spirit. So every action is an action of devotion. I remember being with Prabhupada and just watching Prabhupada's motions, and none of us are like that, of course. And even watching Prabhupada play the cartels, I would sit behind Prabhupada as he was giving class and chanting. The reason I would sit behind is because I didn't want to sit in front of Prabhupada. Because he would look at you and you would think he's looking through your soul, and I didn't want my soul to be seen. I was embarrassed with my soul. So I thought, sit behind Prabhupada, you can watch Prabhupada, but he will not, look at you. He sees what a rascal I am. So I would sit behind Prabhupada and just watch Prabhupada play the cartels, and I can't do it, but it was like every time Prabhupada, his thumb would go out and then the rest of the fingers would go out every time he hit the cartels together. And it was like watching poetry, because it was an act of devotion. Every action Prabhupada made was an action of devotion, even down to the smallest action. There was no extraneous physical action like all of us have. And we all have so many extraneous. We eat, we don't honor prasadam. We can't say, can we say that we're actually eating to honor prasadam? No, we're eating because our little tongues and bellies, or big bellies, big monkey, big belly. So our big bellies are growling. And the tongue, oh my goodness, look at that Mysore pop. So are we actually thinking of Krishna? Think about it. I'm not trying to embarrass anyone or make anyone feel guilty, but when you saw that Mysore pop, were you thinking Krishna? Maybe you were. Wait, maybe. No.
How will it taste?
You were thinking, goody.
Yes, Guru.
You weren't even thinking, oh, Guru gave it to me. You were thinking, good, ooh.
Guru
Yeah.
is Prashad.
Yum.
Yeah.
You're more advanced than I am. So, but with Prabhupada, just contrasting that with Prabhupada, like even his eating, Prabhupada, when he'd take prasadam, he would face the wall. And he would take a half an hour, and it was like an act of devotion. That's amazing, isn't it? Most of us, it's whatever. So when every action is an act of devotion, and then you're just thinking of pleasing Krishna, then you can tolerate. It's very easy. And then so Karunika, the next one, I don't think we'll have time to go over all of them, but the next one, Karunika, being full of mercy, one understands also devotionally, it's not just some mundane sentiment that, I feel sorry for this poor rascal. But it's that Krishna wants me to give, it's actually, it goes in both ways. Normally mundane compassion is, I just feel sorry for you. But Krishna conscious compassion is, Paradukkha Dukhi, your suffering is more important than my own enjoyment and suffering, first of all. And second of all, this will please Krishna and please my spiritual master. So you actually have two directions which the impetus for compassion is coming from, right? Think about that. So that's Karunika. And so therefore a devotee is Kripa Sindhu. Same thing. Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namonaha. He's an ocean of mercy. And Krishna is also a Krishna Karuna Sindhu. And Radharani is more merciful. So devotee is manifesting the mercy of Radharani and Lord Nityananda. And the interesting thing is, Lord Nityananda is the original guru, so the guru is a representative of Lord Nityananda. So therefore, devotee is merciful. And Prabhupada gives some examples here. But Haridas Thakur is still being merciful. Prahlad Maharaj, after after Hiranyakashipu was killed by Lord Nrsimha, then Prahlad Maharaj is asked the question, what do you want? And Prahlad Maharaj answers that I'm not a businessman, not a banana. And therefore, but then one request he makes is, you got to save my father. And he explains to Lord Nrsimha that I am overwhelmed with compassion for all living entities. So you find this Karunika. So many examples of that. And of course, Prabhupada coming to the Western world. Tatikshva Karunika, Suhida Sarvadehinam. And that without discrimination as to who is a fit candidate and who is not, like Lord Nityananda with Jagai and Madai. So in other words, giving it out, but appropriately, not giving the same type of manifestation of mercy to everyone. The mood is the same, but how it manifests is different. That requires discrimination. In other words, sometimes mercy means not to tell someone about Krishna, because the person will commit offenses. If you actually tell the wrong person about Krishna, or someone who's going to get violent, then it will cause more problems. So sometimes mercy means, all right, even though I want to talk about Krishna, I don't. I just give this person some prasadam. That's it. So, Karunika Suradasa, and that's Suradasa Sarvadehinam. Understanding how to appropriately give compassion and mercy to each and every different living entity. And then Ajata Shatrava, which is an important one. It's also the name of Maharaj Yudhisthira. Ajata Shatru means he whose enemy has never been born. That means that one may consider you to be, or the Vaishnava to be their enemy, but a Vaishnava doesn't consider anyone to be their enemy. Why not? Because he understands that whatever happens to him is coming by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the example of that, perfect example or manifestation of that, is when Dharma the bull is being attacked by the personality of Kali, and Parikshit Maharaj asks him, who did this to you? And Dharma the bull says, that's a good philosophical question. He doesn't say, it was Kali. Just smash him. Because he understands that his suffering is due to to Krishna. It was that Tatena Kampam Sushmekshmana Bhujanibhatma Kritam Vipakam Redvag Bhuvir Purvir Vidadam Namaste Jiveta Yo Mukti Pade Siddhayabhak. That one goes on tolerating these things and actually thinks this is due to my past karma, or it's just Krishna's arrangement to purify me. So he doesn't get angry at the perpetrator. It actually says in the Bhagavatam, one who gets angry and blames the immediate cause of his distress, he's just as culpable or responsible for the person who did it to him. Because he's thinking in an atheistic way that something happens outside of the will of the Lord. I mean, nobody is capable of hurting me unless Krishna allows it to happen. So I have to see. They hurt me rather than someone else, because that is actually Krishna's arrangement for my own purification. And therefore you could be Surada Sarvadehina and Ajata Shatrava, no enemies. And also Shanta, peaceful. Because one becomes peaceful by seeing what? Yomam Pashati Sarvachra, Sarvam Shivaya Pashati. By seeing Krishna everywhere and everything. That's how one becomes peaceful. Of course, not that one just sits back and lets things happen to him. Krishna also gives you intelligence. You don't take service from Krishna saying, oh, my car ran out of petrol. It's Krishna's arrangement. No. I remember one time I was in a car with one of my disciples and I said, the, what you call the fuel gauge, or we call it gas,
Yes, yes.
is actually says E. E doesn't mean excellent, it means... It says, don't worry, Guru Maharaj. There's always some extra built in there.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
Reserve.
Yeah, reserve.
60
Wow.
Yes, I said, we'll see. And all of a sudden we're going down the road. Put. And I said, you're out. You're out of petrol, gasoline. And what are you going to do about it? He said, I don't know. And this devotee wasn't so capable of going to the nearest petrol station, physical reasons.
Gurudev.
Oh, you read the book?
No, you said it.
You
Yes,
told us.
yes, yes.
What?
You told us.
You told us many times.
What is that?
No, I
So-
Probably is listening as well.
Yeah. And so I had to grab this milk container, go to the nearest petrol station, and bring back. So the point is, you can't just say, Krishna. Krishna's given you intelligence and, the ability in man, intelligence. So, there's 5 factors in action. But things that happen outside of your ability, then you understand it's Krishna. Like that. So, but you're to blame or you get the credit for certain things. Sashanta Sadhava Sudabhushana. So anyway, so these are the qualities of a sadhu. And it's important, just to summarize, to understand these are secondary qualities. But still they're important. And that's what we should start to look for when we see these qualities. And then also look for devotion to Krishna. Because we're engaged in bhakti yoga. Not hatha yoga, jnana yoga, sankhya. Well, types of sankhya yoga have bhakti in them. So that's really important. And that's what I saw of Prabhupada. Prabhupada, his perfection was his complete devotion or bhakti. Bhakti mam abhijanati yavanyas jasmi. Talk about that. Only by bhakti can Krishna be understood. Not by gyan, not by yoga, not by any of these other things. All right, so any questions or comments? Yeah.
So Gurudev, first of all, very beautiful class. Thank you for explaining it so nicely.
Mhm.
So you're saying that these are secondary qualities, not primary qualities. And primary qualities devotional service or devotional qualities.
They're important qualities.
But the important qualities. But so how can we sometimes understand this? That sometimes we see devotees who are practicing bhakti, so devotion is there, but some of these qualities are missing.
Mhm.
They're not as tolerant. They've got not as probably there's some inimical feelings towards others because we see clashes between.
So they're still they're on the path. We respect them.
Mm.
We offer obeisances to them. We try to encourage them in devotional service. We don't go around finding fault. But we have to be aware of these things. It's not that we're blind.
No.
We understand this person is on the path of perfection, and therefore they're considered Konteya Pratijani and Nami Bhakta Pranashati. So this devotee will attain perfection, and we tolerate. We try to manifest these good qualities. Not that we go around just saying, hey, you're not a sadhu, because I saw you get angry. And anger isn't necessarily a sign of someone who's not a sadhu, because sometimes a sadhu will get angry because that's how his compassion. But he's not controlled by anger. It's not controlled. Like Prabhupada would get angry and people would get bewildered. How can this sadhu get angry at someone? But his anger was part of his compassion. Like a parent sometimes has to get angry with the child. Like if the child is running across a busy street and the parent doesn't get angry with the child, then it's pretty stupid. I mean, you don't beat the child for doing that, but you have to really get angry and show, because your anger is a sign of your love at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, within reason. It's not like my mother used to say, I'm hitting you because I love you so much. And I would say, don't love me too much. Or what, if this is love, I'd hate to see what hate is. Anyway, so, but anger is necessary. I mean, and violence isn't, like a doctor who's removing cancerous growth. It's like a violent activity in one sense. Or in a war, like the battlefield of Kurukshetra, etc. Violence, is necessary for Arjuna and the rest. Arjuna, if he was just a wimp, it wouldn't work. So you have to get angry. I mean, if a Kshatriya doesn't get angry, or even if you're playing sports, you have to get angry at the opposite team, isn't it? If you're playing, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Playing football, you have to really, you can't just say, oh, they're so nice.
Yeah.
It's just like, you go, of course, I'm not saying you should play that game. But anyway, so anger is sometimes useful. And, and lust is sometimes necessary, like kama, that Krishna says, I am lust according to the rules and regulations. So you have to see according to what's called contextually, in different circumstances, what's appropriate. But whatever the Vaishnava does is out of compassion and love, and a Vaishnava never has enemies, so to speak. Like that. But sometimes it may appear like that, like when people have attacked Prabhupada, especially some of his godbrothers that would criticize him. Prabhupada just told us not to associate with them. But Prabhupada inside didn't consider them to be his enemies, because when they came and visited him, he was very cordial and everything with them. But to protect us, he had to take on this particular attitude. They're envious. Which is an objective. At that point, it was Prabhupada's objective viewpoint about the dangers that were there. So, any other questions? Yes?
Just on the same point, Maharaj. So sometimes we see some of these qualities, what we say, like these would exist before, and later we realize that devotional qualities would be there, right? So it's one leading to the other, or?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, there's one lead to the other. These manifesting, artificially to these devotional qualities, when you don't have the qualities, will lead to devotion if you do it to please Krishna. It depends on your motivation. And devotion to Krishna automatically gives you these qualities. That's the verse, like, Yajasti Bhakti Bhagavacha Kinshana. But manifesting these qualities as an offering to Krishna, even though I don't feel like it right now. If I felt like, what they call throttling someone, you ever heard that expression before? And I don't do it, I feel like it, but, please give me a little time. I need a time out. So anyway, but you don't do it because you know it's not pleasing to Krishna on the intellectual platform. Intellectual platform is not exactly bhakti, but it's the beginning of bhakti, where one does something, even though you don't, your whole mentality is to do the opposite. But that, yes, by manifesting, if I think, all right, I'm a representative of Prabhupada, even though I don't really, these qualities are not really ingrained in my consciousness, but if I manifest them externally, it will be pleasing to Prabhupada. That's an offering to Krishna. So that's another reason. And that is bhakti. That is bhakti. So, but just because I'm manifesting, I want to manifest my kindness because I want people to love me, that's not going to lead to bhakti. because we may manifest these qualities. You know, just like a businessman can be awfully kind to people, especially car salesmen. You ever buy a car?
Yeah.
Go into a dealership?
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Tesla, they don't have salesmen. That's the advantage.
Yes, Gurudev.
That's why everybody should get Tesla. So, but you go into other car dealerships, and they're your best friends.
Yeah.
They're so loving. I remember even in Vrindavan, when I first went to Vrindavan, I'd go to this place in Gangotri.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, Bir Krishna Maharaj. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Sit down. Let me bring some limca." I don't know if you know.
Yes, yes, Gurudev.
They still have limca there.
Oh,
Gurudev,
yes.
that's what we are doing every day. Limca, Gurudev, in Govardhan.
Governor.
After putting your
Prabhu
sleep,
used to
just
bring
like-
Limca.
No, nobody gave me any. I won't take it because I sugar. It'll destroy your teeth. But anyway, so let's sit down. No salesman. No, not trying to sell me anything. Sit down. Here's a cushion. Oh, it's very nice. How you doing? Oh, it's so good to see you. I was like their best friend. And then
They know you well, Gurudev.
they said, we don't need to buy anything. And you feel so guilty. I said, all right. Do you have any doties?
It's like a Bratsaki has done your share of food.
And now,
Gurudev is nice, you know.
and now, by that hospitality, they have this multi-story place.
Yeah.
I mean, before was this like one of these little things about this wide. That was this one story. It was this wide, a little back room, a few shelves with doties and everything like that. And now it's just like the exporter around the world. And so, was that bhakti? I mean, I don't want to criticize, they're Brajabasis, but that's salesmanship. So you may see these good qualities in someone, but you have to see what is the primary quality behind it. I mean, they're devotees, so I really shouldn't use them as an example. But let's say a car salesman or any salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is the saying? Chanakya Pandit says, too much devotion is a sign of a thief.
Yeah.
But isn't it? It's like for Vaishyas they get away with it, right? Because they
Yeah, they can lie a
Brahma
little bit.
is
Yeah, they could lie.
Yeah.
But a Brahmin should be
Brahma
honest.
should be
honest.
Yeah.
Okay? I think it's time. Because everybody, no work today, of course.
No,
Holiday.
Good Friday.
Friday.
Good Friday.
Yes, Friday.
Lord Jesus Christ. please.
Yeah, I know.
There's a good
And
Friday.
Sunday is Easter Sunday.
Yes, Gurudev. Monday as well.
Monday.
Monday after as well.
Oh, it's good I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. All glory is to His divine grace. To the Prabhupada. To the Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.